Let's see if it works this time. It's been playing up on me. Oh, it's back. It's here. It's here. We're here. Hi, everybody. If anybody's here, I don't know if everybody's here, but the main people are here. The people who need to talk about the book. How are we all?
Good.
I know Chloe's eating, so I'm not going to ask her any questions. I'm just going to assume that she's okay because we're all.
She's happy because you've got food.
I am slightly stressed. That's just in general, but other than that, I'm fine.
Oh. Oh no.
So I can't believe I've started and finished a friggin' series. I know. You could take it off your series. I know you could take it off your series checklist.
I did, and I was like, yeah.
Only another 49 to go.
I know. Well, actually, what 49 for you?
Probably about that, yeah.
Mine is something ridiculous, like hold on 1 second, I can find it. 145 series.
Oh, that's impressive.
Is that just physical?
Yeah. I worked out that the majority of my books that I own are actually series.
I mean, at least you'll always have something to read.
Yeah.
That's a year's worth of reading.
And if I can read that many books in a year.
That's about 3 years worth of reading for me.
I was gonna say that's
depending on how many books are in that series.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a year just to get if the duologies, that's a year to get them finished.
I mean, I could have ticked off a series at the end of last year, but I couldn't bring myself to read Kingdom of Ash, and I still haven't read Kingdom of Ash.
Oh no!
Read it. It's very good.
I just.
No, I understand. I understand.
If you can get through Queen of Air and Darkness, I'm sure you can get through Kingdom of Ash.
I haven't read Queen of Air and Darkness.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Don't do Elise and try and read all of the sadness at the same time.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah, this was the month that Lisa was reading all of the sad ones.
And I felt the stress. This being one of them, this was not the most... Actually, I'm lying. This wasn't the one that I... Was it? It actually might have been. It wasn't the most hard... It wasn't the most difficult to read, but it was the one that I feel like more emotionally invested in. Yeah. So speaking of emotional investment in the characters, what did we all rate it?
It was a 5 stars. Of course it was.
5. It was also a 5-star.
5.
I think...
Anything else?
I'm just going to turn my camera off 2 seconds because I'm going to relocate. I'll be back.
No worries. I think this is the most successful series I've done other than the Schwab one. Like rating wise, from the series that I've read for like book clubs and stuff, because they were all 5 stars for me. So I did make notes, like I did mention before, the live, but I am not sure if I can actually understand the word that I wrote, because part of this was written in stress, and literally just wrote one word like Mia, 50 million question marks, like Ashlyn, and then another 10 question marks. So, and then other words are just scribbled whilst I was crying. So
seems legit.
We'll see. We'll see. If I understand what I've written. So the first bit I wrote quite tame. I enjoyed the recap. What did you think of the recaps that went on at the beginning of the book? Because I didn't read it in the. For me, this was the first recap I had. Because
I'd had a recap at the beginning of God's Grave as well, and actually I really, really appreciated it. It's really good.
I find that it is so good. I think he does it in all of his books. I remember it happening in the Aurora Horizon series as well. And it's so good. If you
happen in Aurora as well.
I thought it did. And I think that it's so good if you haven't read them, because you can just go, I don't remember that's what happened.
Yeah. I did like that. And obviously I know I had only just read it. And it wasn't actually that long between reading the second and the third, but I did forget exactly where we finished. I knew that at one point, obviously, in case you don't already know.
We're here to talk about spoilers.
We're here to talk about spoilers, because with a third in the series. But hello, Hattie. Hello, Meg, and 5 stars from Hattie. I forgot that it ended right as like she jumped off with Lucius, aka is it Johan that she calls him. Yeah, Johan. I don't know how you spell that. Because I audiobooked this, but
Jonnen.
right, okay.
Which if I'd have read it and not listened to it, I would have thought it was a different name. So it was actually really good to listen to it.
Yeah, so
Do you want to know what the working title was for this one?
Yes.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna.
The working title was Double Dark and then also True Dark, and his response was ooh.
Yeah. I mean, fair. None of those sound right.
Before we talk about I know we've already gone onto like the recap, but even before that, the dedication is really, really cute, which I don't think Lisa will have necessarily got in the audiobook. It says, "For my readers, I couldn't have done it without you either." And then underneath on the extra annotations is done. It says, "Truer words never written. The success of this series was entirely thanks to reader word of mouth. Thank you all."
Oh,
A little bit. It was
he
cute.
can be cute. His books aren't, but he can be cute.
There's cute moments in them.
It's fair. There is.
Few and far between like lots of sadness, but
Yeah.
That is true. One of the first things I wrote was Yonin, petulant little shit.
The first thing I've wrote down is that obviously it says in the first introduction from the narrator is that we've had birth, we've had life, and now it's death. And I like that that's just a very like set up from the beginning of it.
I tried to forget that bit. I was like, nope, this is gonna be a convenient resurrection. It's gonna be a convenient end, and it's gonna be fine. It's fine. I'm gonna pretend he didn't say that because I was stressed the whole book because of that.
Well, then it goes into it as well with Mia very much thinking that a plan completely worked in chapter 1. It's like she's thinking everything's gone fine, and it's like, oh no, but has it though?
you had not.
No, I don't like it. And I think with Lucius / Jordan, I don't know what you want to call him, but he, in a way, I think his reaction was normal, but in a way, I feel like I don't know. I think
put down that he doesn't know her. Why should he trust her?
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense that he doesn't trust her.
Yeah.
But to me, it was really annoying because, like, I know who she is.
Exactly.
Like, just shut up and listen to her. Like, but then we think from his perspective, this random girl just killed his father and taken him away.
He loved his father as well. Like, he had a good relationship with him.
Yeah, like imagine if that had happened to you at that age, and the person was just like, "Oh yeah, no, it's fine. I'm your family." You'd be like, "Stay the fuck away from me."
Fair.
Did anyone else notice that we're not messing around with timelines at the beginning of this one? It goes straight into it, and there's no like trying to. Catherine's very happy about it.
Yeah, I feel like
once I actually understood.
And know where we are. It's fine.
Yes, I love that. It was when it's the recap that he went into her, like carrying him, or was she carrying him at this point? I can't remember if she carrying him or just dragging him along with her. But he was like kicking and screaming, like going for her for the whole time. I think it's really as a reader, it's like because we know what she's like and we know her backstory, we know that she's telling the truth, but that he was just being a little shit, and I felt like it was really hard to actually feel any compassion for him, even though I know he's in a bad position. But I was just like, shut up, please, just calling her every day under the sun and just being a little shit. But I think what else did I write? What did you think of Jonan as a character in general?
I love him.
I think he got better as the book went on.
Yeah.
I feel like he was so developed in his own way, and it like for just one book, for him to be introduced at the start and for me to love him so much by the end, I think that's so incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah.
And I love how it was done.
Yeah, especially at the beginning, because he kept saying like what his position was and who he was, and she was a slave, and like, you know, why would he listen to her? Because you know, and because of who he was, I didn't actually think that I'd end up liking him near the end. Near the end, I did end up liking him, but when we first meet him, I was like, he's going to be difficult, isn't he? But
kind of interesting to see that, like, what Mia could have been, like, because we had that parallel in the second book of like,
yeah,
if Mia had become like a spoiled brat who had, like, if her father hadn't died and stuff like that,
yeah,
she would have ended up being what's her name in who was holding, like, looking after the Collegium.
yeah,
Then you also have like the parallel of, hey, if Scaver had taken her in as well, she would have been very, very similar.
yeah.
Interesting.
But the fact that she, even though we've got this like really hardened side of Mia that we see when it comes to like killing people and just like she's very focused on her revenge and stuff, obviously because he is her family, and even though she thought he was dead and everything, the fact that despite how horrible he was to her, and yes, she did get angry, but she really, really fucking tried, and it really, really hurt her when he'd say nasty things. Seeing that side of her, I was like, actually, you shouldn't really want to hug an assassin, should you? You shouldn't really be rooting for an assassin. But I really was. I was like, oh, she's so cute.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote this so early on. I think there was a period of time where I wrote so many notes. Has anybody got any notes from, or any thoughts of like the beginning of the book or the first couple of chapters?
So the beginning actually goes into things quite quickly, so that might be why you've got notes about things quite early on, because that is my next note, is about how fast something happens. I wrote mine down in by chapter, so I can
Right, okay, yeah. So
the end of chapter 2. This is just an annotation from J. Christoph, saying that he had no idea the role that Trick was going to play in book 3 when I necked him in book 1. For all I knew, the poor kid was just gone, but I do like the idea of a love that endures beyond the grave, even if it's maybe not entirely reciprocal.
I like that.
yeah.
But I like the fact that, like, he was supposed to be gone. So when you were all wanting a resurrection trope, like, that wasn't planned. And then it was like, oh no, actually, let's bring him back. And then chapter 3 is where we very, very early on find out who the narrator is. And that was the first message that I got from either of these two.
I was losing my shit.
I also got a message from Jem as well. All three of you sent me basically the same message.
The fact that we find out it's Mercurio, I think at one point I did throw his name out there as somebody, but then for me, because I was like, I know Smash you said don't think too much into it, but in book 1 he says this is about the time when I realised I loved her or something like that.
So to kind of go into this a bit more, I got a message from, it might be when we were driving back up from London. We were talking about it, and Lisa turns to me and she goes, "But no, he wasn't there." So like it can't. And I was like, Lisa, there is also a magical library that has dead books and books that were never written. Don't think too deeply into it.
I mean, I will also point out once again, J. Christoph had no idea what he was doing when he wrote the first book, because again, the annotation in here, like I've said, I didn't know the identity of the narrator when I started book 1, decided about halfway through book 2, but this twist was still building for almost 2 years, and it was such fun to write.
Yeah, so but maybe it's like a plot hole that we'll never really fully understand, but that for me.
Again, there are literal books that were written before Mercurio wrote them.
Yeah.
So he might not have been there, but he knows it because he read them.
Yeah.
Don't think too deeply into it, Lisa.
My brain is going to be fried.
So you've been watching Doctor Who recently, right? You're going to get to a particular episode where you are finally able to quote the timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, and that is pretty much exactly what is happening here. It's very, very, very similar to how that episode works, and you will see what I mean. It's like you can't have one without the other, basically.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but that even though it came out that like it was him, I was still very much expecting him to be like, yeah, psych, the same way they did with the story of like how they wrote how Mia had defeated the Red Church in the last one, and then they realized that no, it wasn't actually that. It was.
there was something that came out with it because there was a point that we'll get to this part later on, but there is a point where there is a whole chapter where you think it's an actual chapter and then you find out that no, it's actually part of the book and that everything that's in the book isn't completely set in stone.
Yeah.
That
Things will change.
was so clever.
Yeah.
Well, there's an annotation about that saying, I bet none of you noticed the double quotation marks on it the first time you read it. Because if you look, there is actually a double quotation mark because it starts off with a piece of dialogue. I will find out exactly what page it is for you.
Oh, that's so clever.
I know.
Oh God, it's
This
making me
book.
want me.
I just want to reread the whole series again.
And pick up on all these little things, like, but I want to read it physically as well as audio next time, I think.
Yes.
So maybe I did write it, and when
Is it chapter 30?
No, it's the different part. I thought it was. I'm just trying to find out where it is.
I opened it and it has 2
Oh, is it? What chapter? Sorry.
30.
Oh, that's what I had written down, and then I was like, it didn't look like it in there, but maybe it did.
It's like book 4.
1 second.
Oh yeah, I really thought that was.
Yeah, it says who spotted the double quotation mark first time, though, be honest. It's
Well,
also
it's
different
My
type.
first time and I didn't even know.
How
It's
does
also a
that
different
start?
font.
Is it 30 could?
Yes.
Oh, because there's no doubles on mine.
Where it says, oh, fuck no.
No.
There should be. There should be one. There should be 2. Just.
Oh, do you mean like that?
Oh no, you've only got the one. I'll show you what it looks like on mine.
Yeah, I was about to take the photo as well.
1 sec. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, how weird.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Hence
Oh.
why I didn't work it out then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he was mocking the writer when he was reading it, Mercurius, and what kind of wanker writes a novel with footnotes? I'm like, oh my God. I literally laughed out loud at that bit. I'm like, you're literally just ripping yourself here. And I loved the.
The footnote for that is what kind indeed.
I love that, like, he. Like, because I mean, Mercurius technically, like, it's like Mercurius is him, then, isn't it? Like,
Mhm.
and then he's just taking the piss out of himself. I was really well done. Like, I was reading that bit and it just proper made me giggle. And I love the librarian. I forget his name, but I love him.
Alias.
Alias. Yeah, I wrote it down further down. And Mr. Kindler and Eclipse still bickering. They're like fucking siblings, aren't they? They're just like at each other's throats all the time. But
I quite liked how they always bicker. And then Mr. Kindly, who's been shaped by Mia, stayed with Mia for most of it. And then Eclipse went with Yonan. Because they were kind of bickering like siblings because they are siblings. And then you had the demons like who were bickering as well. I thought that was really cool.
I loved their relationship. The way that like he immediately was just like Eclipse was just I really loved that. That was just so cute. And the fact that Mia could see it as well and really appreciate the fact that Eclipse went over and like took his fear and gave him that comfort when he was scared, because at the time he was still a bit cagey with Mia, but obviously still needed someone to be there for him. That he immediately bonded with Eclipse about. That was just it was like he was his pet though, wasn't it? Even though you can't actually, it's not really a real thing. But yeah, that whole thing was. What did I say? Oh, I don't know why I wrote that.
Mr. Kindly.
She's not amused. Oh yeah, finding out more about the Darken.
Yeah, I was going to say my next notes are from chapter 5, which is basically where Trick kind of explains everything and you find out more. And I want to show you the drawing for it as well because it's really pretty.
Oh my
God.
God.
Wow.
But it said it was, again, on the notes for it, it says it's like a really difficult chapter to write because of lots of exposition, but still maintaining the Mia, Ash, and Trick drama.
Yeah. I was gonna come on to that bit because I wrote that like it was very awkward to read those scenes between Trick and Ashlyn, but also I don't. She was unnecessary. I don't know unnecessarily mean, but I didn't like the way she was with him because in front of her, he didn't come out to me and be like, "Oh, I love you," and blah blah. It was just there to guide her, but then she was
Alright,
very territorial.
Yeah, but also this dude's like clawed his way out of what could be like the afterlife
Mhm.
to come back to help Mia.
Yeah,
And as well, you're a massive trick stan. So of course you're going to be like, oh, it's no, piss off.
she was.
Amazing. I will die on this hill.
She was really unnecessarily mean to him.
No, she wasn't.
Let's just do a poll here. Who well, at the start of this book, because obviously you knew Trick was back. Who wanted to end up with Trick and who wanted to end up with Ash? Hands up for Ash. Hands up for Trick. At the end of this book, who wanted her to end up with Trick? Who wanted her to end up with Ash? Okay. Just wanted to see where we're at.
I like I said, I don't think like I can see what you're saying about it, but I don't think she was being over like territorial in a bad way, because this dude's came from the dead. She thought she had no competition, and suddenly, oh, this guy's literally clawed his way out of what could be hell.
You can't trust anyone who's come back from something like that as well. Like, you just don't know you've watched too many fantasy things to be able to just instantly trust someone when they come back.
But it's Trick.
It makes no difference. It's a fucking fictional character.
Trick. I believed in Trick.
Well, you believe in the wrong person. I will die on this hill.
You could die on the hill, but I love Trick.
Hey, I'm not saying I don't love Trick. I'm just saying that your opinion is wrong.
Anyway, Ashley was a bitch.
I mean, if it helps Ash, the next annotation I have a note on is J. Christoph saying how much he loves Ash.
In your face, Lisa.
I mean, yeah. I'm normally rooting for like the sapphic romance, but I didn't.
Well, so one of the key things with the Ash and Mia just feels like a more adult relationship. It just feels like a lot more of a fully developed relationship than Mia and Trick ever did. Like, it was an infatuation, but you never really saw them like actually have any sort of emotional connection where it was tested.
Mm.
Whereas, and this is what kind of the annotation is in here. It says, "This is why I like Ash. She tells Mia hard truths and she stands up to her. She doesn't just doesn't go along with what Mia says. She calls her out on what she needs to be called out on."
Mm-hmm.
And I think without Ash being there, Mia could have gone down a very, very different route and not in a good way.
And the only time that you really see Trick doing that is when she outright calls him the name Kofi, knowing it'll set him off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think towards the end of the book, you start to see Mia sort of like kind of turning a bit and sort of, standing up for herself more and stuff, So, yeah, I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm not with you on this one.
Well, give me mine then. I don't care.
As I've said before, I love Trick as a character. Trick is a fantastic character. I just, anytime that I think of them, like any relationships in this, no.
The relationship growth between Ash and Mia is just like so much more incredible than Mia ever could be, I think.
As well, you've got this idea that Trick, yes, he has came back from the dead. That's fair enough. Like, props to him for doing that. But he's got this idea of Mia from when he last saw her. He doesn't know what she's been through. He doesn't know how much she's grown. Yeah. So you have like all of these things that Mia has turned into and the things that she's become and found out about herself through the help of Ashlyn, through the help of Mercurial, through the help of the Collegium. And Trick just has this idealized like thing of what Mia was. And Mia's grown out of that so much.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. You're wrong, but okay. What do we think of Claude the pirate?
Cloud,
sorry.
I thought he was funny.
I said this to Chloe. There is a character in these books that I wanted just so much more from, and it's Pirate King, because the pirates are like their entire world is just so fantastic. And
I loved Cloud.
Yeah.
He probably made me laugh. And when he found out what she was, it was very much like, oh, right, okay, like, let's just crack on. And it was, I was just like, no freak out.
I loved his like how he was like, oh, this is what happened to my brother, and this is why I hate the people that you took down.
That's a bit where I got messages from Lisa because she was sad.
I think that was such a well done thing of being like, this is why we can trust this guy. It was such a like quick, easy way to be like, hey, these are my thoughts, and this is why you should trust this person as a character. And I was like, fantastic. I will.
What is it with like pirates in these like sort of series though? Because they're always like the ones that I really like. Like we've got in Dark Shade of Magic, we've got Alucard, we've got in the Grishaverse, you've got Nikolai. I'm like, they're always my favourites.
Because pirates are awesome.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, even though he knew there was something off, he still just helped them. And it was just, I don't know, I just really liked his character, and I would have loved to have seen more from him. But I didn't expect him to go in, especially because he didn't know. His introduction to Demir was just popping up and like he'd been lied to get passage on his boat, so easily it could have been like, nah, do you know what, fuck off. And he still trusted her enough to sort of say like,
but
you know,
again, I think
my
that's his backstory. That's his backstory. She did something that he desperately wanted without even knowing it. So he was automatically like, hey, you've done something that I've wanted it, like thought about for literal years since I was a child. I'm going to trust you, and you know.
That made me sad. I didn't expect that story to come out of him. I expected some kind of sad backstory, because a lot of like those kinds of characters have those in books. But I didn't expect it to be that, and I was like, oh, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I really no. What else? I'll try to look at the notes.
I'm just seeing what my next bit is. I didn't write notes for quite a while. I was like just very invested in it.
Oh, when she chose not to kill Scather, I was like, after all that, she just didn't kill him. I know that obviously there wouldn't have been the rest of the book without him. Oh, really? Without doing that, but the fact that she chose not to kill him, what did you think of that? I'm screaming at her to kill him. Not gonna lie. Do you have any opinion on it, or you're not?
Which bit are you talking about?
At the beginning, when she tells Jonan she's going to kill him, and then they have the conversation, and
when they're in his like chambers type thing. Okay, there's so many places where she goes to kill him and doesn't. Specific than when she didn't kill him. I thought it was interesting. I think it was a good place to kind of see his point of view and his perspective, because we haven't had that. We've only had this one idea of like, he's a bad guy. So to see his perspective, I think it was really, really helpful.
Are there any notes on that, on the book, on the annotations?
I can't remember how far in it was, because I didn't make notes on everything.
Oh, I don't know.
Like my next notes are about Ash again, and just how much Jake Christoph loves Mia and Ash together, because it's another note about that. Which we'll tell you in a minute, depending on how far we are.
Yeah, I think it's before she went on the boat with Cloud.
Oh, so we're jumping around.
Yeah, we are. And that was just like the next thing that I wrote about.
Yeah.
It's about chapter 7.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's way before. I didn't have any notes on that, but let me see if there is anything in here.
I can't remember if it was at this point, but I have like 3 notes, and one of them is Scather taking taking credit for what Mia became.
There are actually some notes on here. It says Julius was so convincing in this scene. I did actually contemplate a version where she did join him for a while, but no room. And then at the end of it, it says, "God damn, I love this scene. 3 years of work leading to that one moment," and that's when that's like the end of it when he says, "Bring me my son, Mia." He said his voice soft and deadly, and it's when she says, "I'll consider it, Father," and then goes with that bit.
Yeah. What else did I write? Oh, this is a bit further after the ship thing. That Mariel and Marius and Mercurio walking in on them.
Oh yeah. Blood
Um,
smut, as it's described by J. Christoph in the annotations. Yeah,
As what?
blood smut,
Blood smut. Oh.
which you'll
yeah.
get more of when we read EOTV. Yeah.
Like because I was listening to it. Was she watching while he was feeding? Like,
Yeah.
right, okay. I thought that was the gist of what it was. Made me feel a bit sick.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
Oh, like the two of them are incesty. It's very incesty, and it's a
Yeah.
bit creepy. And
Yeah.
more than a bit creepy. Let's be real.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm hoping I've just heard that wrong, but I haven't.
I mean,
I
the fact
haven't
that
heard that wrong.
he constantly refers to her as sister love, sister mine tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, it was. Just made me feel a bit like, oh shit. And then the fact that Mercury was like, we did. Like, come to talk to you about this. Just like, clean up. It's creepy.
I do find them really interesting characters though, because you can never tell whose side they're on.
Yeah.
Like, constantly
On their
change.
own side, that's the only side they're on.
Yeah, it's the thing. Like they could, yeah, they will be one either side, whichever one is going to protect each other, and that's all they care about.
Yeah.
And it obviously becomes quite important later on.
Yeah, and the fact that like Marius's reaction when Mercurio like says the line verbatim that he said to Mia, and he was like, you weren't there, like how did you know this? And that's how he sort of gets him to try and help Mia. But Mercurio's love for Mia and the fact that he realizes quite late on how much he actually does like love her as a daughter, and it's like it's kind of
Well, so this is going back to what you said about the book and him realizing that he loved her. Do you not think that it was when he was reading the books back that's when he realized that's what he meant? It was when he read it, he got to that point. He went, "Oh, actually, this is when I realized. Like reading this is when I realized." But it's just the fact that he doesn't write it till later.
And especially if you think about in the timeline when he's reading it.
Yeah.
Like think about at the times that he was reading it is like at the back end of the books.
Yeah.
Like it's
fair. That makes sense.
Yeah, wibbly wobbly timey wimey. I'm allowed to say it. You're not.
Not yet. Wait till I've watched those episodes.
Oh, you're so close. You're like a season away. You're so close.
It's a fantastic episode.
It is. It's my
And
favorite.
another phrase that I picked up from J. Christopher was surprised. Maul's teeth.
Mm.
I say it to myself all the time.
Piss and blood.
Yeah, piss and blood, Maul's teeth. I don't know why, but he has these phrases that just like stick in your head.
Speaking of people's love for Mia, by the way, the next note I have is from like the next chapter after the whole blood smut scene. And it's Ash saying, I will rip all 3 suns out of heaven to keep her safe. You hear me? I will kill the fucking sky. And then J. Christoph's annotation is find yourself a girl who makes vows about you the way Ash makes vows about Mia.
I'm not going to lie, that bit was cute.
I feel like it's Ash. Me like that scene.
I just love them so much. I'm not going to cry, but I'm going to cry.
And then in that same chapter as well, it's also about sort of how much Mia loves everyone because she's not willing to put anyone at risk. That's when they're sort of formulating plans and things. And even though like it could help, she's not willing to put people at risk to.
Oh, the whole gladiator thing is when she goes to see like Blade singing Wave Waker and like it names them all and they're in that like rundown theater and she goes to see them all and she realizes that she can't ask them to
also
risk their lives for her.
As a side, I would love alternate universe where we get to see just what happens in that theater. They all just end up happy and just run this shitty theatre. I think it would be hilarious. I think that we should have something like that.
What, Brim and Wave Worker?
All of them just running this theatre and just being like exasperated.
Ex-gladiator just running.
Yeah, fantastic.
In this chapter, though, as well, it's Mr. Kindly who actually says, no, we need to actually
I
do something
hated that.
about this. And again, the annotation for this, Mr. Kindly makes the hard calls, even above Ashlyn. He's the one to push Mia to call her on her bullshit, to tell her truths no one else is willing to. And he does it out of total love. He's the best, and I hate cats.
I hated that they were arguing.
I also think it's really interesting to see them actually coming to like arguments in this one, because before that, like, he would be like, is this wise? And she'd be like, shut up. And he'd be like, all right, okay. But in this one, he was actually like, no, we're not doing this anymore. I'm not just like stepping to the side. I'm actually going to tell you what you need to hear, and if you don't do it, I'm going to do it for you.
The exchange I'm looking at on the page here is literally Mia saying, I've never been sorrier to have met you than I am in this moment. And Mr. Kindly saying, a burden I will gladly bear to keep you breathing.
I love them. I love them so much.
Like, the fact that he didn't expect to grow to care for her, but actually grew to care for her, like that whole thing. And even though she was like, when he went back to actually tell the guys what she actually initially went there to do, and the fact that they were sort of disappointed in her for not asking, because and then it's like one of them said, like, you gave us our freedom, so we're gonna help you because obviously we care about you as well. That made me tear up, but because it was like happy tears, because kind of thing, like, because it was.
I also loved the humor in that, of them going like, of course we're going to help you. Oh, do you know where I haven't been this way. Oh, we should go on a holiday, like, because it was such a bittersweet moment, because it was so funny, but at the same time, you know that not all these people are going to survive, and you know that it's a painful place. So I was sat there going, oh, this is really sweet, but oh no.
As soon as all of them were like, yeah, we're coming, I'm like, you're not all coming back. You're not all gonna end this alive. And that was like heartbreaking, because again, he has this way of, even though the character is on the page for such a short space of time, he has this way of making you just like totally like love them. I would love to see partly what you said, but partly just like what their backstories were. And how and how they sort of spent their time when they initially did break away from me and like first get their freedom. What happened to them? Because obviously I know they were all together as gladiati, but it's like how they started their life out by themselves. Because obviously all we'd see them is them drunk in a theatre. Just another phrase. What the base? That stuck in my head for ages as well. It's just random phrases that come up. Oh yeah, and I put fuck Ash taunting trick, claiming Mia. I don't know why I wrote that.
And again, my next bit is a cute Ash bit. We've got very different like things here. My next note is a couple of chapters on from the gladiator stuff, and it's when. Because basically in between that, there's just a couple of smut scenes with Ash and Mia. And then it's Ash basically just saying that all she wants is like a happily ever after.
Oh, that was sad.
I just want to be with you forever, just forever, forever and ever. And then J. Christoph's just done a little heart next to it. It's so cute. It's all she wants.
I knew something bad was coming, because they had like a little found family moment where they all opened up to each other on the way to this camp and like
about their sex
funny sex stories. I was laughing so hard.
And the fact that one of them had never had sex, and then they just went on to like actually make sure that they could.
That again, it's just sort of like it just played out like a movie scene in my head. That they were just like trottering along, and then one of them was just like, save myself for the right woman, and then that got the attention of somebody.
It says at the beginning of the chapter, some downtime to get to know folks before the misery begins in earnest.
Oh God! And it did, Mr. Christoph, my friend. It did, and just before said misery, when Brim was like I'm gonna make my move, I wrote, "Oh, I love Brim and Wave Waker." I wrote those words literally a couple of sentences before the sadness, and then I just wrote, "Fuck no."
Yep.
And cried a lot.
Yep.
It says in here what's worse about it as well is that it's brutal, particularly for Mia, finding out about things happening, because it's people that she knows that she thought were friends killing people that she's now friends with. Like,
Yeah.
it's not nice.
And also, this is the exact reason she did not want them to come with her, because they had got their freedom. They were away from everything. They were living their lives however crappy.
She managed to save them from death.
Yeah.
Only to lead them to their death.
Yeah. That whole thing was just.
But I think it's lovely that she got people to go with her, because
Yeah.
you know, her family has been so dispersed as she, growing up, that she's got that great found family aspect. And having obviously read other J. Christoph and Amy Kaufman work, you can see that that's kind of something that he's really good at writing, is found family. So it's kind of like
a single J. Christoph hasn't got found family in it.
Yeah, 100%.
Great. There you go. Yeah. That. Do you use a book, one of those books for one of those prompts if you have
one? Malu's popped in. Hello. Tori popped in. Ashlag, hello. The book is a big 5 stars, as you should, Ashlag, as you should. So finding out that, obviously around that whole scene, finding out that Mia was Trick's first. Did we ever come across that before? Was that mentioned in previous books, or I just missed it?
I don't know if Trick.
No, Mia was Trick's first. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Because we know Mia was on at the very beginning of the first book.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever said, but again, I don't know if Trick would want to say that, because it's ew, virgin, don't like that.
I mean, they were both 16, so
yeah. But the way that he just looks at it and he was like, "Oh shoot!" I can't remember what someone says to him, but he turned around and looked at me and was like, "Oh yeah, she was." I must have been someone special or something like that. And I was like, "Oh, she was," and I was like, "Oh shit!" It was Mia.
He learned tricks from what's her name, the Shaheed of what Truth?
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
The flirty Shaheed.
Yeah. And he specifically says, "Oh, she's taught me some stuff." But it's not ever said that she went the full way with him.
Yeah. See, that to me just makes me look.
That's why Mia is so special to Trick, I guess.
Alea, that's her name, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then obviously after that happened, Mia, again, there's such a contrast to the way that she acts as well. Obviously, she can be quite hardened when she's being in murder mode, but then when it comes to the people she cares about, you see this side of her, and the way that she just fucking breaks down over Brim and Wave Waker and screams at Mr. Kindly to go. I don't want to see you.
Said that was the saddest part for him to reread when he had to reread them to annotate it.
That broke me as well. I was like, no, Mr. Kindly, don't tell me go. I was wanting him to sort of stand his ground and be like, that broke. I thought that was gonna be the last time we saw Mr. Kindly. I should have known that it wouldn't be, but I thought it was, and it was fucking horrible to read. After everything they've been through together. The fact that he just disappeared. And then after that, it didn't just totally forget about him. It did reference the fact that she could feel that he wasn't there.
Especially when Eclipse went.
Oh. That was horrible to me. I did not like that bit.
No, it
I did not like that bit.
wasn't ideal.
Oh, and then I literally wrote in capital letters Nev.
Oh, no.
Also, crying moment. Do you know when I said this probably was the one that I cried most at when I'm thinking about it?
I think you cried earlier on. I think you didn't like the ending isn't necessarily a moment where you're gonna cry, like unless you're actually you finish it and cry for hours after it's finished. But the ending isn't necessarily like the big fight scene and things like that. It's not because you've had so much already happen.
Yeah. Like as soon as other people started going back into it, obviously when the Gladiators came in, I knew that some of those would make it. And then when Nave came back, and then obviously they were reading the books, weren't they? The is it like Drusilla? Yeah. And she was reading who was involved and stuff.
I don't like
I don't, but I liked that in this book you got to see the perspective of all of the bad guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
You saw like what Drusilla's done in her past life, in her like home life, and why she has to keep doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
You got to see Scaver. You've got to see the blind Shahid that I can't remember his name.
Solis. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously you get like more about his backstory. Like I liked the fact you got insights to these characters that made them more than just like the big bad guy. You had like actual legit like people.
In the words of Jay Christoph. I like this brief glimpse into Drusilla's home life. The notion she's doing all this awful shit for the sake of family doesn't make her less awful, but it grounds her in a human sense. And then it says evil grandma. It's like it doesn't condone anything that she's doing, but it just makes her into a fully fledged human rather than just a bad guy.
Yeah, rather than just that one that looks like a frail old lady, but really isn't and could kill you. Like,
Yeah.
It's the same as Mia in some senses, because if we had this perspective of if the book was done from Drusilla's perspective, it would be exactly the same, but Mia would be the bad guy.
Yeah, it's just who it's framed around,
and it's really interesting that we actually like get because let's be real, Mia's not a good person.
No,
she's an assassin.
At one point, she turns around and says, "I'm literally like, how many Mias have been made?" Because of who I've killed, how many people like me have I created the way Scaver created me?
Well, so the chapter before that you see a bit of Drusilla's backstory is a bit where Mia sits on a throne at the end of it and says, "I think you can call me your majesty." And well, this is the start of that chapter. I think this chapter is my favourite moment of Mia badassery in the whole goddamn trilogy. But also within that, she does get quite brutal in how she's killing people. Like there's a bit where Jay Christoph has literally wrote down, "He's already dead." Like, stop.
Oh yeah, when she like
out of control.
Yeah, I saw. Ooh.
Ash is just like one step closer every live show to buying those books.
I had the money.
I saw I thought that she was gonna she asked that guy's name and they were supposed to fight because she was gonna like try and do something to remember him when he'd gone or something. Or like to try and help his family. So I didn't expect her to just be like poof and then just stab that guy to death. Like that. And the fact that again she just kept going and I was like, think.
Just look at the animation. It's just like, stop. He's already dead.
I love it. I also appreciate it because like she had to do that.
And she was angry.
Well, no, it wasn't even because she was angry. She had to do it to make sure that they didn't just all turn on her and go, "Fuck this, we're not taking you as the queen."
Yeah.
How to do it.
Am I assuming this annotation is something to do with D&D?
+2 circumstance bonus to intimidate.
Yes.
To intimidation check.
I love that. I love that. Again, I just want to say, the Pirate King, I would just love a full book of him. because he was such a cool character just from out his backstory. I'm like, no, I want this as a full novel, please. Like he has a literal coat made of faces.
That was.
I have another random line in the chapter with the Drusilla backstory. It's nothing to do with Drusilla. It's just a random one that Mia says that's I am the war you cannot win. It's just nice. I like that one. Just thought I'd point that out. Sorry, I'm just skipping through to try and find it.
No, like my last note was wow, the smutty scenes, Jesus.
Did you not write notes after that bit? Okay, I do still have some for the rest of the book, so we're fine.
I literally just blitzed through it, and I was like, and then after that, I just stopped taking notes. And the next
I get
got
to
a
that
lot of the
point.
rings,
because we've still got a particular, quite a major bit to talk about before we get to the end section.
I had only notes on Mia and Yonan in like the fact that at one point he's like, "You're going to kill him, aren't you?" And she's like, "Yeah, I am." And then he's like,
"I don't want you to."
And she's like, "He took all of our family," and he literally turns around and goes, "But he's my family." And I was like, I adore that because it's like it's true, and it's just I love them.
The next bit is this is coming up to sort of the major scene that we're going to need to talk about before we get to the end part. So again, this kind of comes to things we've already talked about on this thing. At the end of chapter 27, J. Kristoff wrote, "Writing love triangles is very hard. If you do your job as an author properly, half of your readers are going to be disappointed no matter how it ends, but it's also super fun." Like,
Lisa's in the disappointed
that we've got a disagreement in here.
Look, just read the pre-order incentive is all I'm saying.
That's actually in the back of this book, and I haven't read it yet.
I didn't want her to die.
I need to read that. Ash sent it to me.
I didn't want her to die. I just didn't necessarily want them to be alone together. If there had been a polyamorous relationship, I'd have been fine with that.
Read the pre-order incentive. That is literally what the pre-order incentive is. It's called 3. It's about the 3 of them. That's all it is.
Yeah. I will. I did you send me that?
Yes,
did someone send me that? Yeah, I thought you did. I don't think I'm not ready yet.
There's also a moment because before like things start to happen, because we're getting towards like the end sections here. There is moments where Mia's kind of very much struggling with her part in it all, and like although because obviously it's kind of like a prophecy type thing, isn't it? Like she's got a role that she has to play. And it says, "I do like the idea that Mia struggles with the idea of this whole moon sun destiny thing for most of the book. She was never a particularly religious character, so it makes sense to me that she'd." Sorry, he goes round, so I have to turn the book. She'd balk at the idea of it, and I do like that you get moments like even so close to the end of it where she's still very much like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, and she was when he was basically telling her that she had to die. That like she was gonna die, and she was like, "Let me think about this." But Ashley was like, "No, no." And the fact that like, although Trick said he didn't know the extent of like the prophecy and that she would have to die, the fact that he knew part of it and that like she was like a key part of it and didn't tell her, I didn't like that he kept that from her. I'm gonna admit that I didn't like that bit. But the fact that Ashley was immediately like, "No, you're not doing this."
I also think it's really interesting because throughout the entire series, she's only had one goal, and that goal was to kill Skaver. So the fact that like in the third one, it's like, "Oh, by the way, this is what you're supposed to be doing." I totally understand that she's like, my entire life has been shaped around killing this one person. You really think I'm going to stop doing what I need to do to follow this bullshit? Not a chance.
I've never believed in anyway. I'm not religious. Like, well, and the fact that she didn't suddenly become religious, she didn't suddenly find God, and it was very realistic in that respect. It's like she's never believed, but she, and then like Chloe was saying, like she did struggle with it.
But the only reason that she really sort of accepted it later on is that it did help her in her ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I think she still very much would have rebelled against it if it didn't then start to involve Skaver as well.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Not gonna lie.
Oh, sorry, go on.
when Trick was like praying or whatever he was doing, like that was weird for me to read. And I was just like, in a storm, he's just stood there. Like, I was like, dude, you're not okay, are you?
He's clawed his way out of the afterlife. I really don't think anyone was expecting him to be okay, to be fair.
So then we get the moment where she kind of does start to embrace it, and she, like, it says in J. Kristoff's word, it took 2.5 books to get there, but watching Mia go full Shadow Queen in this scene is so much fun. I love the typography tricks. I love the single word on the whole page summing up where she's at in her head. Just super fun to write. It's basically where she fully like embraced is that bit.
Yeah.
Right, it's just like yeah. Like, and again, you won't necessarily have got this from just listening to the audiobook,
No,
but like
I didn't.
when she steps into the shadow world bit, that's how it's written on the page.
Oh, I
Which
love that.
I really love the fact that it is literally like almost as if she's shadow stepping from one part of the page to the next.
Yeah.
I love how it's played with. It's so good.
And you get it kind of in the audio, but you get the intonation of the slowness like that. But if you hadn't seen it in the physical book, it wouldn't have made sense. And I liked those bits where it slowed down and went like that, and then
yeah,
I just really liked it.
And then we go straight into the section where with the double quotation marks, where you have a whole section where it's like, okay, like this is all happening, and then at the end of it, it's like, oh no, she's actually killing him, and then it's like, oh no, it's like they were just reading the book all along.
I love that.
That was unexpected. I didn't, and I because in my mind I was like, yes, get him, and then I was
It's full, like 10 pages as well of it happening. So like you really think that that's what the actual next part of the story is. And then it's just like, nope. Because it's just enough, Scaver said. And it's like, what? Scaver's just been killed. What's happening?
Yeah. Like that whole thing. I was very much like, oh my god, this is like a genius plan. They've totally
Did you not think this was quite a lot of the audiobook left?
I wasn't paying attention. I was just enthralled. Like,
well, it was only the Shaheed, so it's like, well, they don't count.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like it's amazing how it was written, and it really made me believe that they were getting the upper hand. And I was like, maybe nobody else has to die that I like. And like I said, I didn't dislike Ashlyn. Just didn't particularly like it for me. I didn't want that relationship to just be a twosome, but that's by the by. Didn't want it to die.
I mean, you're wrong, but all right.
Well, should we get to one of those moments in a minute?
I can't. Spider Killer needs to just fuck off.
Well, so I don't even think I've got notes about when we actually get to that point. I think by that point I was just very invested. So I'm trying to figure out exactly when it happened.
Okay.
I think that this was the only, going back to what I was about to say when before, I think that Ashlyn dying was the reason that Mia was just like, fuck it, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think if Ashlyn was there, she would have had a lot more reason to stay. And I think at that point she was like, no, I don't care anymore. Yeah. Which
have you already mentioned one of my favourite Mia moments? Fighting topless and then turning around and killing the Pirate King? Yes, we did. We did. And the fact that she still wore his bloody jacket after it. Just walking around in this crusty, bloody old jacket just because she could. I was like...
before we get on to the Ashlyn moment, shall we talk about Eclipse?
No, it didn't happen.
I mean, it did. It definitely
It didn't. I'm sorry. La, 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 la.
It wasn't nice. Yeah.
I mean, well, at this point, Mr. Kindly's still not there. Still not around. So technically she's lost Mr. Kindly. And then fucking Eclipse goes, and then
Jonah's very much with his father at this point as well. So it's like it feels like everything's against Mia, basically.
Yeah.
And then, but I did like the fact that there was a moment where Yonan was very torn about what to do. Like he didn't agree with what his dad was doing, and he wanted to save Eclipse, and he knew that it was wrong what was happening, and the fact that he was just like looking at Eclipse like, oh.
It does say, it says Jonah was put in such a hard place here. He loves Eclipse too, but the poor kid is 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't realise.
He's 9 years old, and he was his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this
I'm gonna turn the light off.
this still happens.
I'm
This
gonna
happens
do that. One second.
happens in like a very short space of time. So it's although he's found out all this stuff about his dad, it's still, like I said, he's still his dad, and he's essentially he still doesn't fully know these people as well
No.
as the guy who's raised him. And he's also still he's scared of his dad as well. So so that whole scene is yeah, and as soon as it started dragging out a little bit, well, not dragging out, but like going a bit, you could tell that it was gonna cave and the eclipse was gonna, and I hated that so much. And the fact that Mia felt it as well when she lost him. That was horrible. I hated that.
And then we get to a little bit later. Mia finally tells Ash that she loves her. It's only taken her a while to do it because Ash has said it many times at this point.
Yeah.
And then literally, like, we don't get much further. And then there's a nice scene with Ash and Trick as well.
That was cute.
And it's
Where
all,
we just do like we both love her sort of thing, and
yeah,
like it was. And,
she literally says that she wished she could take it back and that they wish there'd been another way. It says sorry, like
horrible.
It wasn't anything against Trick why he had to die, and it's all like it's a moment. And
but when he went to stab it, I don't know if it was you or Smash that I messaged.
Me.
Or was it both? I can't remember. When I was like, "Oh no!" I thought he stabbed her. I thought she was dead. I was like, "Oh no, she's okay." Oh no, she's not. No, she's not. Okay.
He messaged both for us.
Yeah.
But,
Like, why is your phone going off so much as kids? Lisa's reading Darkdawn. It's got to the bit.
yeah. Because I was in the hotel room with Meg, and I was just like, "Oh, she's got to that bit."
Oh, but can we just appreciate as well? Like, when was it? Well, I can't remember what bit I was reading when I was in the hotel with Jem. I think it was.
It was the Ash bit.
Was it the Ash bit?
Yeah, because you were about 2 chapters before it when we were on the tube.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna get the action soon.
So, Catherine,
Was
this
it
is
not
fun.
also Bryn and Thingy as well? Because I think I got messages about both. Hang on, messages.
I can't remember when it was, but
That was a while before.
So I was in the hotel with Jem, and we started to do some reading before I went to sleep, and I had the amazingly great idea of continuing with Darkdawn, and at this point Jem hadn't gone up to what?
She was 2 chapters. She left it when Eclipse had gone, and she was 2 chapters before Ash.
See, I got no Sid. Yeah. Blade Singer and Sid can't die.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I think Mercurio is okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought Mercurio was gonna die when Julius went to grab him, and I was like, hell's no. And then I was like, oh no, it's okay. It's just. But I was sat there sobbing on the bed. Jem looked at me and she's like, "You can't tell me, can you?" Because she hadn't got to that bit in the book.
She's still not got to that bit.
And I was just like, fucking sobbing, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No."
It's a line of it's a line like this is before Mia even gets there, because it gets worse when Mia gets there. But it's when she first realizes that she's been poisoned. It says, and Ashlyn couldn't taste Mia on her lips anymore. All she could taste was the blood. It's like, no, don't need it. And then Mia gets there, and it gets worse.
Oh, the crying, like the absolute devastation that Mia feels.
And I think listening to the audiobook on that scene makes it worse.
Yeah.
It does.
You can in his voice when he's narrating it, and I sat there like, I don't know what to do with what.
It's Ash saying, "I'd have killed the sky for you," and then Mia saying, "No, don't you dare say your fucking farewells to me." I'm like, no, stop it.
The first time I read this, I was at work when I listened to this bit, so I couldn't cry. I just had to be like, I'm okay. I can get out of it. I paused it and I was like, I'm not listening to any more of this, and I listened to the rest of it at home. Hence crying so much.
I literally listened to that bit, and then the sprint ended last night, and I was just there like, I'm not okay. If I think about it too much, I'll cry even more. I didn't like physically like cry, but my eyes were going, and I was like,
that was just so well done, and the fact that like they just made this like sort of truce situation like between Trick and Ash, and then obviously I went through the shock of thinking that he'd killed her when he hadn't, and then this happened, and he really tried to fucking help. Like, despite everything, he really tried to help her, even though she killed him. And I was just, oh.
I mean, if you want to, if I want to stir the pot bit, and I might as well
Do it.
Trick has an amazing.
I'm sorry, what?
Trick has an amazing nose, and he was so blinded by his anger. Technically, he did kill her because if he hadn't, if he wasn't so angry at her, he would have been able to smell it. And he said, he was so so angry at her that he was distracted enough not to smell it.
She killed him.
Yeah, she did, and she apologized by sobbing at him. And as I've said,
he's gonna be angry. So
no, he is. But he got his own back. If you want, if that truce. Just saying, he did not smell it. Therefore, he got his own back.
No, he didn't go out and do it on purpose and be like.
No, which is even funnier because like he was devastated that he didn't catch it. I'm an Ash stan. I will fight you on this.
Unsubscribe.
No.
Unsubscribe from this friendship.
Fine, bye.
No.
I didn't actually write any more notes. Although I'll let you read this first.
I had 10 minutes left of the audiobook when the news broke that Trump had been indicted, and it was a weird time being crying and sad and so happy at the same time. I love that so much.
The last note I actually have is about Alias and sort of finding out more about his part in it, and also more about like my actual note was because obviously found out more about like how it's going to have to end. My note is, a sacrifice prophecy thing, of course, because like what else would it be?
Yeah,
obviously you find out more about his family connections and things like that.
Yeah, him being.
How do we all feel about that part of it?
I don't know.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was really, really interesting. I also thought it was really interesting to know he was the one who created the Red Church.
I thought it was really clever. I didn't see any of it coming. It was, and I
think because he has just been this like crouchy old man who just kind of sits in a library and enjoys books, which like cannot relate to that at all. And then it's like, oh no, actually, like he's the daughter of someone who was supposed to be what Mia's doing now, and he created the Red Church, and then he was assassinated because people wanted something more from him. And it was just like you sit there and you go, fucking hell, he's had a life, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's still stuck around.
I just love the fact that like there's a character that's been in the background, so very sort of like minute. Not you don't think much of them. They pop up every so often, and then they've got such a core part to play in the whole of the 3 books. I think that's just so clever how he's written that.
Like he legitimately was there for cool quotes throughout the book. That's all I thought about in the first 2 books is like this guy says really cool things about reading.
All the ones about like too many books, too few centuries, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Or like he's just like, oh yeah, there's some like bookworms chilling. Just don't disturb them. Don't.
I love this actual bookworm.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And the fact that he's just so like
he's so blasé about everything as well. Like
didn't see it coming.
Like they're like, oh, you shouldn't smoke, and I'm like, fuck, really? Oh,
kind of
And then obviously now with them, that's leading on to her actually going and doing what she needs to do to sort of finish this whole thing off. So the whole thing with the one of the bits that a lot of this wasn't planned from the start, obviously, as we've seen, but some bits were, and the whole bit with the the skull basically at the end of you see at the end of book 4. It says this part was planned from the beginning of the series. As soon as I drew the map of God's grave as a giant without a head, I knew this scene would have happened eventually. So that bit was always planned. And then obviously you're going into like the actual confrontation, and Mr. Kindly comes back.
That was genius.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that although he left her, like everything that he was doing in the background, like in this like side whatever, was like still for her.
Were you not a little bit worried though when you first saw him, because he's just sort of there as part of it, like that he had actually turned against her?
No.
See, I thought you might have been, because we constantly had conversations about like we don't know what this shadow cat is.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Nope.
We've had this like obviously knowing that like there was potential for it to be like they took over their bodies and turned them into killers. Like
initially, if this had ever happened like in book 1 or maybe the start of book 2, but because it's sort of shown how much he did love her and care.
I appreciate that, but I also sat there and thought about if in the idea of the shadow demons are aspects of the person.
Mm-hmm.
When I first read it, I was like, oh shit, Mia has like gone down this vengeful road because someone wronged her. Is Mr. Kindly going to think the same of Mia?
Mm.
And that's how I sat there and thought, like,
oh, that's fair. I didn't think of it like that, but that's fair. I was invested in their relationship that much that I was just like, no, there's another reason why he's there. Like I just refused to believe that he would do that to her after they've been through so many times. He could have just been like, nah, fuck off. I don't need this shit. I can go. I can find someone else to talk to me like this. Like,
I also, sorry, just kind of throwing my ideas out. I also didn't know if it was one of those things of like the same way they were drawn to that pool of blackness at the start of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if Mr. Kindly, once he was with all the rest of these shadow demons, would be like, oh, this is my home now, and this is what I'm supposed to do. Because all of these shadowy bits are supposed to be trying to become one and become a god.
Yeah.
So I was always a bit like, oh, I mean, is that gonna like, is his love for Mia gonna prevail, or is it gonna be like? So I did. Yeah.
Oh, all right, Harry.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that you can.
He's cute.
I heard that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's very chilled right now. No, I do like the so like sort of the turning moment in kind of the final like fight scene, if you can call it that, is kind of full circle with Mia, because she's very much from the very beginning. One of the first things you see of her is like obviously when her father, because he was her father for all intents and purposes, got executed. Like she's told, never flinch, never fear, never forget. Like it's all very much like fear is a big part of it from the very beginning, and it's her kind of finding a balance with fear that actually prompts it to all finish. And there's a section of where it's actually, he's underlined it in here, where it's part of having is a fear of losing, part of creating is a fear of it breaking, part of beginning is a fear of your ending. Fear is never a choice, but letting it rule you is. And that's when she then sort of goes, actually.
And it was brought up earlier because Mr. Kindly literally has conversation with Eclipse and is like, I don't know if we're doing the right thing by taking her. And the fact that like she has lived throughout these entire books without fear because of these passengers, and then suddenly it's like she has to fear, because what else can she do when she's like they are coping mechanisms, and suddenly she doesn't have them anymore.
Yeah, and that makes sense, but I don't know why. But even when Yonan, like when the others left and they were like, oh no, Yonan has to stay, he's still not like fulfilled his purpose kind of thing, he's still got like a bigger part to play. I had a feeling that it would be him that would have to like choose a side essentially, and either like help or hinder the and I thought that because it was saying that she died, maybe he'd turned on Mia and helped Skaven kill her. I didn't expect her to like
We've jumped
throw
a lot.
herself onto her blade with her dad just to make sure he was good and on there. Like that was, I didn't expect that to be the ending that like.
We're jumping ahead of ourselves a
Yeah, I
little
was
bit.
about to say that's a bit of a jump, Lisa.
Because so basically in like chronology of it, so you've got that bit where she sort of accepts like letting the piece of the soul in and stuff like that, and she kind of go like it's Mia making her choice. Then you get a really like sweet bit but also sad bit of Alias where it's just like, and finally the old man slept, because like he's done what he needs to do, like he sent Mia off and she's done what she needs to do, and now he gets to rest.
That's sad.
And then Trick goes as well.
No,
like
he
it's very
doesn't.
much just a quick succession of people like who were there to make sure that something happened, and now that their bit of done, they've all just sort of like, okay, well, wait, we can rest now, and it's Trick jumps again. So yeah.
I also
Yeah.
really appreciated that Trick technically did, like, in my eyes, Trick wasn't done. He had one last thing to do, and he literally goes, Ashlyn, this is the path back.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it's very much like it's the final, like, hey, we both love this girl. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Which I suppose is the next bit to talk about, because obviously up until this point, but I suppose I should ask, when Ash died, did you think you were going to see her again?
No.
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 I was just like, Ashlyn died, and then this is why I thought Mercurial was like gonna be the next one to go, because then Trick was like, oh, this is me done here, and I was like, no, Trick can't leave as well when she's literally just lost somebody, and then she's gonna have to go it by herself. She's also lost the passengers, and I was like, seriously, you're
But
doing
again,
this.
I think to an extent we all kind of knew that Mia would have to do this alone.
Yeah, I just thought they'd be like rooting for her in the side.
Well, they were. There's a really nice actual, like, if you look at the chapter titles, there's a really nice 3 chapters in a row, which is Daughter, which is Mia sort of being where she needs to be, Lover, which is when Ash comes back, and then Father, which is is that Mercurial that's in that one, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mercurial.
That's the one where she says father, and she's talking to Skaver, and Mercurial was like, yeah. And I was like,
even that was just so subtle, where it was just like, yeah. She's like, no, this one.
and the fact that she looks at him and she's like, oh fuck, he's still here, and then just smiles and like, I wasn't talking about you. Like,
there's a bit where it says the last words that you actually really hear Mia say is when she says to Skaver, I owe you nothing, father. Mia raised her long blade between them, nothing except this. And it's like, that's the last bit you hear, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
it was so well done.
It was so well done, and that's the kind of, like I said, because we all know how J. Kristoff can be. I didn't, and because it kept sort of giving you potential hope that, you know, the stories might not go exactly as you expect it to, and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, will she die? Like, would you continuously mention that she dies if she doesn't die?
Question: have you actually finished a J. Kristoff series yet, or is this the first one you finished? Well, this was the first one I finished. Like, so
Yes.
I'd read the first Aurora book before I read all the series. I'd read the first Illuminate book, but this was the first series I actually finished, and all I'd been told about him was that his endings were brutal. So I fully expected to like everything to be very, very sad, and when things were happening, I believed everything. So I was very much not expecting the bit that we're going to get to soon. Because the thing is as well is that you've already had that moment of like Ash was dead and now Ash has come back, and you're like, okay, well, happy things are happening, but then like Mia's still got this prophecy to live up to, and she's gonna have to die as well, and it's all just like, it felt like things aren't going to end up going well in this at all. So
yeah,
it does write it really well, and like I think it's just because I don't like trusting authors because you know, they like to lead you down certain paths and then like switch it up on you. It wasn't until the very last minute I thought there was going to be like, well, maybe. I think again, I can't remember a message, but I thought when Trix said I want to be with you forever sort of thing, I thought she was gonna die and then they were gonna walk around together forever. Because I said, is that what he means by being together forever? Is he expecting her to die? Did he know she was gonna die? So then they could like just be the
But
undead together.
then again, Trick sacrificed his place at the hearth.
Mhm.
It literally says he could either claw his way out of the afterlife,
Yeah.
be with Mia, or he could sit at the hearth with all of the people he loved. And he said, I gave up my seat. I can't go back. Once I'm dead, I'm fully dead. I don't have an afterlife.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I was expecting something else to happen. Like I was expecting someone to come and save her, or like something to happen where she didn't have to die. So it was really hard to see. Read.
So in the like some of the last annotations that are in like sort of the final battle sequence, there's there's a bit like she even sort of still has doubts when she's in that final thing, like how can I hate him when I'm so much like him? And she's still very much like just there is so much of Skaven in her that she doesn't necessarily want to admit, but it is very much that thing of like she could have very easily gone down a different path. Like it's so close, and she just chose the right one.
Skaven literally says, I think she's got as much of her mother in her as she has me.
Mm.
And I think it is really telling because we know Mia's mother wasn't the best person.
Yeah.
But she had incredible loyalty to those who she was loyal to. But Mia has like these aspects of her that are so brutal, and she will do whatever she needs to do to get the job she needs to do done. But she can also be a little bit underhanded, and she can be a little bit like this and the other, and just
It's really interesting as well, though, that like the fact that she is so much like him is his downfall at the end of the day. Because then there's a line that says, "And in the end, who can cut you deeper than yourself?" And it's like it's the fact that she is so much like him that is why she actually ends up being able to defeat him. And then there is two little notes which are just here and here, and one of them says death and one of them says rebirth. And it's because when you're first reading it, you don't actually realize it, but you can actually see the moments that it happens as you're reading it. So it says like all the pieces inside her catching fire is where he's highlighted death. And then there's a bit that says a severing, stripping them from their core, cutting them off from all they'd known and leaving them alone, alive, and that's rebirth.
Oh.
So it's sort of the moment of like all the shadows being cut away from her, basically. It's rebirth.
Oh, I like that.
And then obviously the next bit after that, you're sort of like, because of this is the thing as well, the book carries on. Like you get this moment like Mia's gone, and then the book carries on, and it's like, okay, well, we're getting this nice little bit. Like the first bit after it is the actual the gods, and it's like, okay, so we're seeing that that's finished. And then you get Mercurio stood there, like, and he's going to start to write his book, and it's like, okay, like, and you find out that what Yonan's doing next, and then it's sort of like,
I thought that was pretty cute though, like the whole, like, kind of like an epilogue, like, what's everyone doing now?
But the thing is, it wasn't an epilogue; it was still a chapter, and then there was still another chapter after that as well, and it was just like it kind of felt like something else has got to happen because there's still a fair amount left. And then you get to chapter 50, which is called Silver. That's at the top of it. It says, "Who says I don't believe in happy endings?" Oh wait, I say that. And it's kind of like, I mean, how did everyone feel about the actual ending? Like separate from the sort of defeating Skaven, the actual last chapter. How do people feel about it?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like I'm going to be on a similar page to Ash. I feel like we're both going to enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the first time I read this book because this time, every time that I've reread it, I know what happens. So it's very, very different. The first time I read this book, like I said, I read Ash's death whilst I was at work. Mm-hmm. So I went, no, I'm not listening to this anymore. I'm going to go home. I finished at 12 at the time. I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to finish this book. And I had been so mentally prepared, knowing J. Kristoff had killed so many characters, so many of my favorite characters throughout the entire series. I was like, I'm prepared for Mia to die.
Same.
I'm prepared for Mia to just go. And then I was I was in, this was my room at the time because I've moved my bed now, but obviously my ex-housemate was still living with me. So I was in here and I was lying on my bed listening to it. And I didn't, so when you were saying about the chapters, I didn't know I had it. I was just playing it on my phone.
Yeah.
So I was just listening to it and it kept on going. And I was like, okay. And then this chapter happened. And I sat there and I was like, oh, because I was so prepared just to cry my eyes out because Mia was dead. And I sat there for ages, and then the book ended, and I just lay there for a second, and literally, and I when I say I cried for 3 hours, I'm not kidding. I literally cried for 3 hours. I just couldn't stop myself crying because I had prepared myself so emotionally for Mia to die that I was like, I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna be strong, and then suddenly she was alive, and I was just like, honestly, Helen came home and said, "Who's died?" Because I had legitimately
Mia, and then she did.
I swear to God, I took a photo of myself crying, and I'm trying to find this photo so I can show you just how horrendous I looked.
I mean, I've always said I'm not, and I know I've said this about I want a trick to come back. I'm not usually a fan of the resurrection trope.
I was a bit worried about how you'd feel about it because of that.
So I don't know.
Can I explain my feelings about it?
Yes.
To do with the resurrection trope, because it isn't really. I will say, she is dead.
Yeah.
Like Mercurio did not lie. Like she is very much dead. It's just that you have in this world, you have the half and you have the halfless, and she happens to be on that side of it, so she doesn't get a place around the half at the minute, and that's why the thing is with me because Ash is also like that. Like they are both dead technically. Yeah. It's not a happy ever after. You get to go on and live your lives and do whatever. Like it's still. It's still very much like a strange thing, but all they ever said, what Ash kept saying to Mia, is that she wanted forever with her. Whether that's in an actual life or an afterlife, it's essentially just like seeing the afterlife. It just gives you that moment of saying that they did find each other in what came next for them.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that.
I didn't know.
I was just happy though.
Yeah. Well, I was just happy it was there. Like even though it's not necessarily the life that they envisioned, but they still managed to find each other. That's the way I saw it.
I mean, it was a nice ending. But yeah, I don't know. Still a bit. But it was a nice ending. It's all
The way the J. Christoph's reasoning for it says Mia deserves some kind of happy ever after with all the hell I put her through. Sometimes I still think about these two and smile. And then at the end, there's a little picture of Mr. Kindly, and it says, "You are a big softy, Christoph. Admit it."
Well, I'd seen or read something, I can't remember, after I'd read this, and he has literally said, you basically readers expect a certain something from books, and they expect some semblance of a happy ending.
Yeah.
And he said you don't want to put off your readers that much by giving them something that's totally out of left field. They want the heroes to win.
Yeah. Even if you do have a moment when the heroes do, like, because sometimes they do have to get sacrificed, but then you'd still have some sort of happy ending in the way that, like, you'd see the characters that survived and that are thriving because of what they sacrificed.
Yeah,
like, there still needs to be something.
Yeah, and I feel like that was what when I read that, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I also I feel as if the way he did it, it felt right in some way.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like a cop out. Which
No,
was nice.
Because it's been set up throughout it. Like, it's not something we've not seen before.
And I feel as if because, like, you get there and you're like, Mia did the hard work. Mia did everything she was supposed to.
Yeah.
But even then, like, she was, I don't know, there was something that, like, I felt like it was such a satisfying ending.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I do get that. And it kind of makes more sense when you say it like that.
Speaking of satisfying endings, shall we? The very last bit is the Dicta Ultima at the end, and there's some nice quotes in this bit. The one particular one that's been underlined is we are not made more by the stories we read, but by the stories we share. And in her, I think we've shared more than most. I shall miss it when it's gone, which is really cute because we're doing this book club together and we've shared this story together.
Yeah.
And then he has wrote a little like end thing as well that says, "This is as much me talking as Mercurio talking, saying goodbye to a girl in series that changed my life, saying thanks to all of you who came on the journey with me, and revisiting these books for this edition has been so much fun. So I'll say it again now to all of you who helped make this series what it is, to all of you who loved Mia as much as I did, thank you." Very nice note at the end.
And people say he's not a nice guy.
And then in the end of this particular version, when you've got the bonus chapters, I need to read these. I meant to read them before this live show, and then life got stressful. But there is a chapter 35, which is called Question. And then there is... One second. Chapter 36 is called Free, which is the one that Asha sent out to people. Chapter 37 is called Ashes. And I think that's it. So I've got 3 or 4 extra chapters to read.
If you want to take photos of the ones I don't have,
I will do, because they're not as long as the red, white, and royal blue one that I'm supposed to have taken photos for Lisa and then forgot to.
It's okay. I'm not waiting for them at all.
Well, no, you were supposed to read it at Becca's. Because I said I wasn't taking photos because it was like 50 pages long. And then it said, but then Becca has the edition, so you were going to read it at hers and you didn't.
Yeah, and then we forgot. Because we got playing Cards Against Humanity. Oh god. But yeah. But next month, well, technically this month we're reading Aurora Rising. I forgot what it was called.
Which Lisa thought was going to be a book that wouldn't be as sad. It's not as dark as Never Hours. Like, it's definitely is more YA. Doesn't mean it's not sad.
I'm scared.
I've only read one.
The first one's not too bad.
No, I've only read 1 and 2.
But yeah, you haven't got to the third one. Okay, then you haven't got to the more sad one yet.
Chloe knows my thoughts now on the third one.
I still haven't read them all. I was halfway through reading them and then I got distracted. I need to go back.
There was a lot of them, to be fair.
So Becca has read book 1. I've read none.
Yeah. So we've got literally every version of it. We've got 0, we've got 1, we've got 2, and we've got 3.
This is going to be fun. Oh, and Ashlaug. Really excited for the Aurora Cycle. I've only read the first one.
I will say, so both of J. Christopher and Amy Kaufman's sci-fi series both remind me of 2 of my favourite TV shows. So is say that one of them reminds me very much of Firefly, which is this one. The Aurora Cycle reminds me a lot of Firefly, and then Illuminae has elements of Battlestar Galactica in it that I really, really like. And I'm very excited to reread them, and I'm also really want to rewatch both of those programs. So,
no, I think this is going to be my first sci-fi that I read in a while.
You read The Martian not that long ago.
No. Oh, yeah, but like
it's your first like it's a different world sci-fi. Like Martian's still based in our reality, isn't it?
I love sci-fi, but I never read enough of it. And when I read it, I'm like, I love it, and then I don't read enough of it. I
don't forget, because most fantasy and sci-fi that I read are like it's like a hybrid kind of thing. The last, from what I can remember, before Martian, the last true sci-fi that I read was like Ready Player One, like 2020 or something, 2021.
I think mine was Long Way to a Small Angry Planet.
I always find that I prefer watching sci-fi than reading sci-fi, because I feel as if there's too much. This sounds really dumb. Science. There's too much science written about it, and like especially if it's like a hard sci-fi where I'm sat there and I'm like, I'm not smart enough to read this. Where if it's on like telly, I can go, that's a computer. I don't need to understand what it does. I just know.
say I do very much like the audiobooks again for the Aurora Cycle. There is some helpful plot devices that do help to understand the sci-fi a little bit. There is you're gonna meet a computer who is very helpful. So I think because it is YA as well, like it is a more accessible sci-fi book.
Right.
I
Well,
really like this series. It's very good.
I'm going to be getting the audiobooks, so I'll read that close to the time of the next one. And is it going to be back on your channel, Chloe?
Yeah,
We're going round in circles.
around. Yeah,
I think we are. Yeah.
I'm going to have Becca joining us. We're going to have a new guest.
we're swapping one girlfriend for the other.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The other half of the couple will be joining us next month.
No doubt I will still get notes from you guys about what it is because I've read them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I
anyone
will
that
be in
has
the
read
comments. You're not getting rid of me.
who want to.
Good.
But it's going to be fun having. I can't believe I've finished a series. Oh God. These are the only times I'm finishing series, by the way, is for these fucking read-alongs. Every other, I've still not finished Wrath that I read for the Fallen series that I started last year.
The fact that I've even kept up, I'm just so proud of myself. I'm like,
I'm proud of you too.
I am going to set you the goal though for next time. Let's try not to finish the books on the day of the live show.
hey, I finished this last night. Last night. That's not the day.
I mean,
of the
you
live-
said you stayed up till midnight. Was it before midnight or after?
It was dead on midnight.
Nice.
Oh, Ash is going to call me out now.
It was definitely not a minute past midnight that I got the message.
Oh!
Actually, because if you didn't message me straight away, you probably did finish it just before midnight.
No, I didn't message you straight away. No.
She finished it yesterday.
She was like composing herself. She's trying to come to terms with what's happened.
Again, throughout this entire live show, you've had the name Sarah underneath you rather than Lisa.
Oh fuck!
I was about at the beginning. I was like, I don't know what the joke is about this, so I was like, I'm
It's
not
because
gonna.
Andy calls me Sarah all the time on her lives, and it's only on her lives that she calls me Sarah. I don't know why.
I did notice it, but I wasn't going to call it out because I was like, let's see how long it takes for her to realise.
I totally.
Wait till the very end. We're about to sign up.
The last time I was live was on Andy's live yesterday, so I always call myself Sarah when I'm on her lives. But yeah, I forgot that was there. So yeah, my name's Sarah now. So we'll see you all next month for Aurora Cycle when I definitely won't have cried.
Not all.
Not at
You
all.
You will. I cried at the first one.
We're manifesting not crying at things. Bye everybody.
Bye.